I see 12 o'clock, gang. So I just want to welcome you to our October call and real excited. We have a very full agenda today, so I'm not going to take a lot of time going over anything with you. We have a lot of guest speakers, so today's meeting is really a little more external than the Office of Early Childhood. Next month, we'll pull back and we'll have some updates from the Office of Early Childhood, but I just want to make sure you're aware of that. But we are starting with my esteemed colleague and her team, Ashley Labetti, and many of you met Ashley last year when we worked with her on taking a look at licensing regulations and processes in the state. She is coming back to do a deeper dive. And so, Ashley, I'm just going to let you take it away. And I know you have Rachel, and I don't know if you have any other colleagues on, but please introduce your colleagues, and you guys have the floor.
Ashley, I'm not sure your audio is working.
Thank you. I was really trying to get all of y'all to lip read. I'm sorry about that. But hi, y'all. I'm Ashley Lavetti. I lead Pillars Research and Strategy. We're a early childhood consulting practice. This is our kind of second year working with the Office of Early Childhood. As you may have guessed, Rachel is my colleague on this work. Rachel, do you want to say hi?
Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel. I'm a senior analyst at Pillars. Really exciting to meet you all.
So we are working with the Office of Early Childhood on conducting an analysis of the state's licensing regulations and process. So Tanya mentioned this, but in 2023, we did some initial work with OEC that kind of did the first or foundational round of research and review. This year, we're building on that analysis. Part of the reason I'm here is because our methodology is really grounded in provider voice and engagement. So if you were involved in this last year, you know that was true, and it holds true for our work this year. So I'm going to go through a couple slides. On the next, this is just, title slide. On the next slide is a very brief kind of overview of, what I just said. We are building on this past analysis of licensing regulations and implementation. So as the LEARNS Act required OEC to do this analysis with the goal of, quote, to reduce any burdensome, unnecessary rules for licensing of childcare facilities. We supported OEC in doing that analysis, put together the report. I think y'all saw it, and if not, happy to share it if you missed that from last year. So what we found in this analysis is that there are many, many strengths within the licensing system, and sometimes the regulations and the implementation of those regulations can be complex, unclear, and actually create a disincentive for providers, both honestly prospective and continuing from participating. So what we're doing in this phase of analysis is to build on that initial work and then propose a series of recommendations to address those challenges that we heard first time around, and I'm sure we're going to build out the details in our understanding through this phase of work. So this will ultimately lead to, on the next slide, 4 deliverables. The first is a rewritten set of licensing regulations for registered childcare family homes, licensed homes, and licensed childcare centers. So as you can see, out of school time programs are not included here. So we're looking really at the birth through 5 kind of spectrum. Second, we are putting together recommended revisions to the childcare licensing process. So again, that is not what is on, if that deliverable number 1 is what is on paper, what the regulations say, deliverable number 2 is how is OEC and the licensing unit, how is that team kind of implementing the regulations, and what could that what does that look like now? And then what would that look like in a moving forward? The third item is an external provider-facing document that synthesizes the revised licensing process. So our goal here is to put together something that a provider, new or continuing, could pick up and kind of easily understand what is the steps of the licensing process, kind of the new licensing process that we're going to propose. So there really is a way to walk through, understand, execute, follow through on this process that we've heard is, can be complex, overwhelming, time-consuming, and try to ease that. And then the fourth is profiles of licensing regulations and processes in target states. So if you go to actually the next slide, this is where we're looking, these are our objectives, right? So I keep talking about these two separate aspects or components, the licensing regulations and then the licensing process. So our objective for the regulations, this is how we're looking at them. First, we are prioritizing kind of those baseline or critical program health and safety standards or those essential standards. We're looking at, our goal is to shift some of the comprehensive quality expectations out of minimum licensing and into, thinking about where else they might belong so that we can really focus regulations on essential standards and health and safety standards. And then we also, our goal or objective is to maintain this balanced approach to flexibility within kind of compliance or implementation of the standards and kind of prescriptive requirements so that we can, clarify both what is in the spirit and in the letter of the recommendation or the regulations. Really what we're trying to get to is, what must be true of a facility for the provider to operate a safe and secure early care and education environment for all children. So that key question is something we keep coming back to. For the process, these are, looking at our objectives here, we're looking to help create an efficient and reliable monitoring and implementation process where there's transparent communication with providers and the field. And there's kind of consistent, or this is really critical and one of the challenges we heard, but there's consistent interpretation of the regulations kind of across OEC and across providers. So everyone is working from the same set of goals, regardless of kind of who you're speaking with. So then our guiding question there is, what process ensures that providers and licensing specialists are spending their limited time on the components that are most important for children and families. And we know that both from the provider perspective and from the licensing unit, there are so many things to do and very little time in which we can do them. And so we want to make sure that we're spending our time on the most mission critical components. The next slide is a kind of brief overview of the methodology or the way that we are approaching the analysis or these findings. So first and foremost, and again, if we worked together last year, you know that this is the case, but we are focused on the perspectives of Arkansas experts. They're complemented with expertise nationally and from target states. So on this first list of Arkansas experts, the very first group, there are providers. So we're doing focus groups, we're doing interviews, we have a provider advisory. There is, if we're talking about licensed or Arkansas experts, providers are that first bullet point, kind of intentionally named. Other list of experts here, as you can imagine, the OEC licensing unit, the Arkansas Department of Education legal team. We're looking at experts in TA and quality support within the state, and then advocates and other intermediaries. In terms of national experts, we have kind of a good net based on the broad array of work that we've done in the past. We have good kind of engagement or good networks with other subject matter experts from across the country. So we're looking at particularly experts that have background in employer-sponsored care, alternative or like a diverse pedagogical models, and then home-based care. We're also speaking with TA and quality support experts nationally. We're looking also at kind of the evolution of licensing. So if you've been in this field for honestly even a decade, you have seen how licensing has evolved over time. And if we look even historically, we know that that's all the more true over the past several decades and longer. So we're thinking about or trying to leverage some of the expertise that exists of historical knowledge of licensing, broadly. And then we're looking across places or people with diverse political views on how we're approaching licensing. This state leaders is the last kind of body of experts. So we're speaking with or engaging with current and past state licensing administrators. The target states at this point are Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. That's who we targeted for our first round. We're also going to look at and engage with Tennessee and West Virginia, and then others as they kind of come up or as defined. All of that is going to be everything we gain here, tailored to the Arkansas context. And then really undergirding all of this is just the work Rachel and I have done with or on licensing and regulations within Arkansas and more broadly to kind of undergird all of these perspectives. I'm going to very briefly, because I think it might be a little bit, maybe, I don't know how much you'll care about this, but on the next slide is the timeline. The most important really thing to think through is that if you want to be engaged, there is an opportunity coming up starting in the latter half of this month. But we are really, right now, we're digging into the current licensing regulations, the current process. We're doing some analysis and creating a framework to really better understand those and see where they fit, particularly in the context of our goals. Moving forward, our next phase is to start doing our interviews with Arkansas national and target state providers experts, including providers. And then over the course of the fall leading into the new year, we're starting to develop and refine our hypotheses. And then this project will kind of come to a conclusion at the end of February 2025, at which point all of the deliverables that I just spoke about will be done. When I say that there's an opportunity to engage, last slide here for me is this is kind of a call to action, or maybe if you are interested, an opportunity for y'all. So there are 3 different ways that if you are interested in helping to contribute to this work or providing your insight, there are 3 different ways to do so. So first is by participating in a focus group or interview, and we can do that over the phone. We can do that virtually via, Zoom or something like this. We're really flexible about both timing and platform, and we want to accommodate your schedules so that we can get as much authentic and diverse input as we can. The second opportunity is answering questions via survey or form. And then the third opportunity is providing kind of written feedback on recommendations. There is, on the written feedback part, we can also collect some of that information, in a phone call or in a Zoom call, but it would be like reviewing things on paper. I think Keeler's going to send out this link. Okay, perfect. But Keeler's going to send out this link to an opportunity to the form to fill out if you are interested in participating. And then really, we're just hoping to have the opportunity to learn from y'all to kind of help create this effective and successful set of recommendations. I flew through all of that. I think I don't want Keeler to get mad at me if I go over my time. But if you have any questions, happy to answer them. You can also reach out separately. I can put my email address in the chat.
Thanks, Ashley and Rachel. We're really excited about working with you again. I just want to emphasize that, without your input and your work in this, we may not get the information that we need, that Ashley needs to help guide us to better processes or better regulations. So please, please make sure that you look for those opportunities to engage with this work and let us know if there are concerns that you have. We want it to be a good process for our providers, and we want to support you. Next up, we have Laura Webb. Laura is the finance staff here in the one of the finance staff and leaders in the Office of Early Childhood. And Laura's going to talk a little bit about some new information that came out. I just want to point out that we sent out this information a couple of weeks ago, and a lot of providers started calling. So what Laura is going to be talking about only impacts new providers that are coming on. So if brand new, if you have any colleagues, or maybe you're opening up something new, and providers that are making changes. So Laura, I'll let you share. And if you're talking, Laura, you're on mute.
I see that she's there.
She may be having some technical difficulties. I'm gonna keep us moving. We can come back to Laura. I know this information has been sent out. I just want to point out that our finance colleagues at the Department of Ed said we had a lot of providers calling the Department of Finance Administration. You do not have to do anything if you have no changes. So please know that if you receive this information about vendor changes with the Department of Finance Administration, unless you're making a change, unless you have a banking change or TIN or EIN changes, this doesn't apply to you. It only applies to those individuals, vendors, private providers, programs that are making changes. So please be aware of that.
Sorry, my
Oh, there
kid's
you
school
are.
had called, so I was on the phone with, you never know what they're calling about, so I had to take that call. Um, so yes, regarding vendor maintenance, first of all, most of you would have by now recognized that we're sending you emails. We are not sending out those paper check stubs anymore. We're trying to save costs with that, and then to ensure that you really are receiving them, because if you receive them in your email, of course, you can always store them, whereas sometimes they get lost when we send them through the mail. So that's one thing that that you would notice. And then, you should always, if you have any changes to your vendor information, whether it's a change in your tax ID number or even a change in address, any changes, please update us. We receive a lot of these checks that we were mailing out, these paper check stubs. We receive hundreds of these back. So you're receiving your money in your bank account, and we're trying to notify you with these, but then they're coming back to us, and that's kind of a waste of our state's resources. And then like Tanya said, if there are no changes at all, you don't have to, update. But any change, the least little thing, even if you don't think it's important, please still notify. You can always email or call me or one of our licensing specialists. Just remember, we're here to serve you, and we want to do this in the most efficient way. And it goes both ways. You helping us so we can better serve you.
Thanks, Laura. Thank you for that. And next up is my good friend and colleague from the Department of Ed, Michelle Snyder. Michelle, sorry about that. She is going to talk to us about STEM, and I know that you all heard from her last year. We have a couple of programs that have been designated in this space. So I'm going to give it to her, and she's going to share with you information about the Arkansas STEM Model Program.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Fantastic. Can everyone see my screen? Please
Yes.
help yourself to
Yes.
that tiny UR code or QR code for a copy of this presentation. That way you will have access to the resources that I'm going to share today. Just give you all a couple of seconds to do that. Excellent. So thank you so much, Tanya, for this opportunity. I am Michelle Snyder. I'm the State STEM Integration Specialist here at the Division of Elementary and Secondary Education here in Little Rock. And I work with STEM schools across the state. And we have recently begun really digging deep and working with early childhood schools. So I'm here to share with you this program. And if this is something that you might be interested in, please just feel free to contact me directly with my email here or phone, and I will we'll set up a time and we can talk a little bit more. So thank you again. Again, if you are interested inside of this PowerPoint presentation, you can leave your email address and I will continue to update you and include you in some upcoming early childhood after school sessions that I will be conducting in the springtime and any other pre-K things that I do. So if you are interested in staying connected with me, please do take a moment to leave your contact information. So just a real brief rundown of STEM in Arkansas and where STEM may fit in the LEARNS Act. And so this is really underneath the R for readiness. And so all STEM education programs across the state is just one way that schools can help ensure that readiness is met. In other words, that all Arkansan students are meeting the demands of today's workforce. There's a lot going on in career tech across the nation, and this has been elevated in our new LEARNS Act. And so lots of information is coming out that's going to impact middle schools as well as high schools for this readiness preparation. Here are all of the symbols of what STEM is here at the Department of Education. Of course, mathematics and science standards fit here. Computer science standards fit here. I work heavily with our career and tech world. I also work with our computer science office. This is critical as well in the STEM world. And then we also offer a Project Lead the Way STEM curriculum for middle school grades. So your district, if you are affiliated with a school district, may have Project Lead the Way. I encourage you to find that out and see if that's something that your district is committed to in the middle school and upper grades. So underneath Secretary Oliva, there is a STEM initiative here in Arkansas. It's called the Arkansas Ready for STEM. And the goal here is to develop a statewide system to connect Arkansas STEM education to our careers and career training opportunities. It's really to meet that readiness goal underneath LEARNS. And so you are part of that system if you are contributing to the very STEM-focused learning that happens in early childhood that I'm sure many of you are doing. Here is a working definition of STEM, and for our state of Arkansas, take a couple of moments and read through that and think about some of the terms, some of the ingredients of this definition, if you will, that you are already doing in your teaching. If you will, in the chat, please post some of these words that are calling to you. Science, yes. Equitable, thank you. Opportunity, yes. Intentionality, authentic, global world. Thank you. Integrated. Yes, I'm going to piggyback on integrated. You guys are doing a fantastic job of integrating your arts and your literacy and your science and your mathematics. And yes, of course, career readiness. Believe it, it's linking to the community. Thank you. That's very critical in our STEM work as well. Thank you. And problem solving. Thank you, Patsy, for sure. I see many of you are giving me your direct messages with your emails. Thank you so much. And understanding and integrating. Thank you. One of the terms that really spoke to us here is what does STEM literate mean for Arkansas and Arkansas students? So we went ahead and we clung to that STEM literate piece, and we decided to define what is a STEM literate person in Arkansas. And if there is nothing more than you guys do in your teaching and learning and in your learning centers, it is to really foster that curiosity in our young learners. And so we've defined what curious means in many ways, connecting academics to everyday experiences, using computational thinking. You guys are so good at helping your students recognize patterns, innovations, operating emerging technologies is important. And you guys begin in your world as well with some basic technologies, very important. Unpacking academic language, and of course, sharpening those employability skills. So you guys are doing this work. And so the other thing that you guys do is you are really calling and helping more students engage in the Arkansas STEM practices. And so these are practices found in computer science standards, the science and engineering standards, as well as our new mathematics standards. So I encourage you to share this with your faculty and to call out when you see your students doing these things. These are the things students should be engaged in. Here on the screen is a link and QR code to the STEM model webpage. Here you can access the resources of the rubrics that I'm going to share with you, as well as see the 2 designated early childhood schools that we have already worked with here in Arkansas. I'd love for you to connect with me, and I can connect you with those great schools so that you can learn to see how they have really focused on implementing STEM in their early pre-K schools. So again, I bring the report to your attention from the National Academies titled Science and Engineering in Preschool through Elementary Grades, the Brilliance of Children and the Strengths of Educators. If you are not aware, I encourage you to pull this report document up. And from that document, they really call out that students are building a foundation to science and engineering in preschool. And so you guys are the beginning of that snowball of building those skills, as well as the aptitudes to be a problem solver in the early grades and learning those coping mechanisms. Early childhood education and instruction is designed to sustain and enhance children's curiosity. So there's our STEM literate piece in what you do around the world and in the world around them. Of course, they are forming those foundational knowledge and skills that they will use to build their understanding through later topics that they will encounter in early grades. So you guys are a critical step in that formation. Here is a copy of the pre-K rubric, and I encourage you all to download this and really use it as a self-assessment tool to see where you are and where you are in this rubric. And that is really the first step for you to analyze where you may see yourself as an accomplishing or model early childhood STEM school. And if so, please contact me because I want to get to know you and support you as you grow. Also, here in the rubric, some of the tenets that we have based this work on, we did base it on the Early Childhood Classroom Quality Assessment Tool. I know as those things get changed and updated, as you guys are redefining early childhood underlearns, these things are able to be changed and updated in our rubric. We do, it is designed to really evaluate early STEM teaching and learning. It really details out how those STEM practices that I shared with you are part of free play. Communication is age appropriate. You're also the learning experiences are also aligned to early childhood learning expectations. And then again, the early childhood classroom quality tool really helped us inform some of the content, the artifacts that we would look for that are pulled from your materials checklist. Any questions so far from the group? How many more minutes do I have, Tanya?
And we have two more speakers. If you
Okay.
could do, Michelle, about maybe 5 more minutes.
Perfect timing. I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you. So I just wanted to bring these two slides up again just to re-enhance that you really are meeting that curious aspect of developing STEM literate citizens here in Arkansas. And again, you are engaging your early childhood learners in STEM practices every day. And so I would love it. You post this in your classrooms and in your school and help your parents understand the importance of some of this free play that really is calling out these particular skills in your students. Some of the benefits, if you are curious as to why you would want to do this, here is sort of an outline of kind of some things I've already mentioned. And in the chat, I also saw how people really connect with community and community engagement partners. It is something that we are digging deep in this year, and we hope to have a tool to help schools build these partnerships with their community stakeholders. And I'll be looking for some feedback from early childhood providers. So that's our big task this year in our strategic planning for the AR Ready for STEM. Just real briefly, the rubric evaluates schools by these three categories: the classroom, the school, and the community. And then, of course, we are then giving a rating, and you add up all of these rates by the attributes. And that's how you can then become where you can, evaluate where you may be. There are some minimum requirements that we do ask for the schools to participate, letters of agreement, a Better Beginnings level 3 or higher. And of course, this takes a team to do. This is not something one teacher, one early childhood center director, one person can do. This really is a collaboration between your educators, your parents, your family, and your local stakeholders. So just want to shout out that Bearcats Pre-K Academy is from the Melbourne School District, as well as Izard County Consolidated Preschool. So those schools are the currently designated STEM early childhood schools. And as you can see, many of the other schools are early elementary schools. So I encourage you to connect with your local districts to see if STEM is something that they work on, because you would want to be part of that feeder pattern. And again, we're working with several schools again this year, but no pre-K schools. So give me a call. This is your call to action. So thank you. I do have some more information here. Again, I've got some after school sessions. Call me if you want some one-on-one with the pre-K rubric. And again, in the springtime, I will be focusing on the pre-K rubric and some early childhood STEM resources that I will be able to share with you by then. So thank you so much for this opportunity. And hopefully I'll get to come visit you guys later in the year. Thank you again.
Thanks, Michelle. she has some additional slides. Those will be out on the website when we upload everything. So you'll have access to her full presentation, and her contact information is in there. So just encourage you. She is very passionate about this work, and we too support that passion, and we want to see more and more pre-K programs on that list. So work with Michelle to get on the list, and we look forward to seeing your name pop up there in the coming months and years. Our next guest is a good friend and colleague from Batesville, Arkansas, and Mary Catherine is equally passionate about the work that she's doing in early childhood, but real specifically today, she's going to be talking to us about a special project called Lena. So, Mary Catherine, excited to hear from you and to give you the floor now.
Thanks, Tanya. I am excited to be talking to you guys today about Lena. If you want to advance to the next slide, you can skip 2, actually. And the next one. So I do own Stars Academy in Batesville. We are an EIDT facility, and I've been a part of our countywide initiative here in Batesville called Impact E8. We work with E8 the statewide E8 to implement that in our county. So about 6 years ago, we started working with them to work to get all of the children in the county to grade level reading by 3rd grade or 8 years old. And so all of us know that are on this call that it starts in the infant room. It starts in pre-K. And so we started doing a lot of different things here in the county to work on that. One thing that Jamie Rayford, who leads our local coalition, and she is our local leads captain for our area, brought to us was Lena, which is a national nonprofit, and their mission, you can see there, is to transform children's futures through early talk technology. And the big thing I love is that it's a data-driven program, and it started in 2004. Next slide, please. So what Lena does is it looks at the talk turns between an adult and a child during their day. You can see on this slide, there is a large disparity with kids. So if you look at the lower left, we have some kids that are in care or in their homes, but in our care every day, that are what we would consider in language isolation, which would be 5 turns or less per hour with an adult. And then that continuum goes all the way up to the optimal talk, which would be 40 turns per hour. But you can see that just over 10% of children experience that. And then the average in a childcare environment is 15 turns per hour. And then in a family childcare home, it's 25 turns per hour. Next slide, please. So the way Lena works is, you can see the little cute guy there with the little vest. So there are Lena days, and on those Lena days, the child wears the little vest and it has the little talk pedometer, and they wear that, and the data gets recorded. And it's not actual words, it's just the kind of the waves, the sound waves, and it's very research driven and intense in how it does it, but it records child talk and adult talk. And then you get to download that information at the end of the Lena day, and then the next day you can coach that in-house, and then the teachers can see what each child is getting per hour. There's so many things available, which we'll look at in a minute, for the reports, and then the teachers can develop goals and things they want to work on, and go back the next week and practice for a week, and then repeat that again. And it works in a 5-week program. So the next slide you can see is where our county started out with our Lena, were all the local public schools that have their early childhood programs, pre-Ks at their school facilities. They all participated in the Lena program. And you can see this is our countywide report. We had 831 kids participate, which was 114 teachers, 57 classroom groups. You can see at the top, as far as equity goes, our pre-turns before we started with Lena, there was an average of 12.5 turns, and at the end, it went up by 55% to 19.4. And again, you can see on the right, the kids that we would consider the 5% or less, those in isolation, they went up by 65%. One thing that I love about it is what you get, the impact you get with the teachers. And you can see that from the teacher survey. You can see that 91% of them would have recommend the Lena program after doing it. 85% felt more confident. 83% increased their job satisfaction. 70% felt like they could communicate better with families about this. And 92% saw language development. So this is the stuff that I got to see prior to us doing it. I'd been watching this for a couple of years, and at the end of this, toward the spring of this year, I asked Jamie what I needed to do to implement it at STARS. And so she helped me get it set up, and we did it this summer. And we did it for 5 weeks for all 12 of our classrooms. One of the other things that I liked about it, on the next slide, you can see that it really does. This is for our county, the language equity piece. So we have a lot of Spanish speaking children in the county. And you can see on the left that their growth was huge compared to the English only speaking kids in our county. And that was for 1 and grow 2. So another 5-week turn, they continued to do that. So we took a lot of our Spanish speaking population who had very few turns, a lot of very few adult-child interactions, and really increased those, even for teachers that do not speak, Spanish. So that too, I really was impressed by that prior to us implementing that. So on the next slide, you can see that one of the reasons why I really wanted to partner with Jamie and do this is because you can implement the implementation is so simple. It really is just doing an orientation, about an hour and a half, 2-hour orientation with all your staff, figuring out how your classrooms want to do it, what cycle you want to run on, what 5 weeks you want to do that, and how you're going to stand up your coaching. We chose to stand up coaching doing it internally. So myself and 3 of my admin staff all did the coaching training, which is about a 3-hour training. It's so great. And I would encourage anyone that is thinking about doing Lena, that's on the fence, this part right here should tip you over. It is so great in strengths-based coaching and facilitating. We learned so much. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I grew myself so much through this program just by that component alone. But also within our county, we have stood up external coaches, and you can do that as well, where you have somebody else come in and coach your staff on the reports. I felt like for us, it was very imperative that we did it in-house because we could really get a lot more feedback. We had a lot of the relationships already established. And what I didn't realize at the time, but I did later, was it really gave an avenue for our teachers to really voice some things to me that prior to they might not have been so comfortable doing. But the data gave them the confidence to be able to do it. So if you look at the next slide, the reports that you saw before did not include our data. So this is our data from Grow 1. We did it from the end of May to the 1st of August. This is our first 5-week cycle. You can see that our pre-turns were 26.9 turns per hour per kid in our facility. And at the end, we had increased to 34. And for our less talkers, we went from 12 up to 22. I will say that our baseline data and our talks and turns is, I think, because of the facility that we generally have only 14, maybe 15 kids in a room, and we always have 3 adults in a room at a time. So that really helps us with our turns. But what it helped us to do was really realize where our turns are focused. So we had a lot of turns that our teachers felt like were redirections and not really teaching turns. And so that was very helpful as well. You can see the teacher percentage there is just off the charts. And I think what I love the most about it from an administrative perspective is it really helped give a visual to our teachers to realize that they literally are growing brains every day, because the Lena research doesn't lie, and it does show that those neurons are forming every time there is an adult-child interaction. And so literally every day they're having those interactions, they're pulling down those neurons and they're making it work. They're building those brains. And so the teachers were able to see, and we were able to say, when these people come up to you and say, oh, you just play all day. No, you're building brains all day. I'm literally building brains. What are you doing? And so it's just amazing to see them. I don't have pictures of the reports that you're given, but it really does. It breaks it down per child and per hour. And it's not per teacher. You just see adult and child, but it does break. Each child has their own little device, so it breaks it down by that. You can tell they could literally sit there and look at the reports and know why it was lower at this time, why it was lower at that time, and they could set their goals for what they wanted to work on. And we had everything from increasing things during outdoor time, because that was a time where the turns were lower. But we also had teachers realizing that they would come in and they would have a dip in their time at like a certain time every day. And just in talking one day in the coaching session, they said, we're just so tired. We don't have any energy. And we started talking, and it came out that they really don't hydrate enough. They don't eat breakfast. They don't eat good proteins, just anything like that. And so their goal that week was to keep a water tracker for themselves and to keep some protein snacks available to them, have a better breakfast. And their numbers the rest of this week's really reflected that really did help in that dip. So it's not just about having turns with the kids, but to me and to our staff, it was more about empowering the staff on how they could do things and how they really are in control of what goes on in their classroom. How that really, what got me thinking about it was because of class. And if you haven't been to any of the class trainings yet, or you're not one of the pilot facilities for class, I think that it will be coming. Class lines up so well. It pairs so well with Lena. And I'll drop a link in the chat when I'm finished for kind of an infographic that Lena provides that shows all those things and how well it works. But I think it's such a tremendous tool for all of us to be able to use from the coaching standpoint. I think it's a great way to, when we start getting that class data back from our observations. The whole point of class, again, is strengths-based. We're going to look at what our staff is doing. That's what's going to be reported on those class reports. Not what they should be doing, not what they didn't do, but what they actually did during that observation. And then we can build on that. And that's exactly what the Lena report does. It shows you what's available and then how to build on that. And so I think that's a great thing for all of us as administrators to get that skill for how to do that. As far as, if you want to just flip to the next slide there, Keeler, I'm sorry. This is where we talk about with our impact group, the value proposition. You actually get actual data, you're given a coaching format, and then you come up with the best practice for how to do that. And I didn't do that. I did not come up with one goal. I wasn't able to look at that report and tell what was going on in the classroom. They literally did it all. And we're just facilitating that. And so they're owning that and they're able to see what they're doing well. The main thing we did was not let them hang up on if a number looked low, or to focus on the low things, was like to bring them back around and be like, no, look at this good. This is what's good. Let's build on that. Their confidence just skyrocketed. You could see that by their survey. It's real time. It's professional growth, real time in the moment, and it's equally distributed across the kids. So for us, we have a lot of nonverbal kids, but that was not the case. And it was great to see the teachers realizing. We have one little boy that just cried a lot, and he was constantly crying, and they were always trying to figure out, why is he crying? What do we need to do? How can we fix it? But through these reports, they were able to tell at different times, and they were realizing his frustration, what he was trying to communicate. And literally now he is saying more words than he's ever said since Lena, because the teachers aren't focused on trying to fix it or make it better, but they're focused on what is it he's communicating. When they were focused on fixing, making it better, they're not bad. They were doing their love, like they're nurturing, they're trying to help, they're trying to do all the things. But when they could see it and realize, then their focus shifted. Well, I could have gone in there all day, every day and told them that, but it would have meant nothing, right? Because I'm not in there every day. I'm just telling them that. But when they see it in a report, it made such a difference. And it really is, if you're going to invest in anything, my dream was this would be something we would provide statewide. And this is why I'm out here pushing it. Tanya knows what my dream is, and all of us at Independence County, this is what we want to see. It's such a good thing, for sure. As far as implementation, I think that's the next slide. Oh no, this is some studies that, I think y'all get these slides, but these were some studies that were done previously about how class and Lena, some of the stuff I talked about earlier, help. But I think the other thing that I drop in the box will be a lot more interesting to everybody too, because it breaks it down by the domains and the dimensions. So maybe the next one is on implementation. Okay, maybe the next one. Sorry. Okay, well, I guess I just missed the implementation piece. But this is where Lena is partnering now. So I will say that since Local Leads has happened, and we've talked about it a lot, we are getting a lot of calls and requests about Lena. Everybody in Independence County that's part of Local Leads, part of Impact E8. I think I saw that Mindy's on here with Batesville Preschool. Of course, Jamie with the Chamber of Commerce. Any of us at all the local schools around, we are more than happy to talk to you about Lena and facilitate any part of that. It's such an easy, yeah, Mindy says, we love Lena. I mean, everybody in this county loves Lena. It is so great. So anything that we can do to assist or help, reach out. I'll put my email in the chat box, and I'll drop that other link. But I can't emphasize this program enough, especially going into class. We had a class observation training a couple of weeks ago. Mindy was there as well. And all of us in the county were there that have facilities, and we were able to really talk a lot about how Lena can support us in teaching our teachers about class and their confidence about it, so they realize it's a strength-based approach to quality improvement. I really think this is a great tool, one tool, but it's a great tool to help us as we continue to improve early childhood in Arkansas.
Mary Catherine, thank you. As you can imagine, I've heard her talk about this more than one time, and every time she's as passionate about it as she was the previous time and the first time I heard her speak to Lena. But when she talks about how much she believes in it, she is being very candid and serious about that, guys. And you can see from her data that you can really see visually, and the teachers can see the difference that it's making. So just really excited and proud for Mary Catherine and the community of Batesville for their implementation of this tool. And we certainly are looking here at the state as we continue to make changes and go in new directions. We see this as a real positive for the work that we're doing, and as a tool that we we want to lift up as well. So thank you, Mary Catherine. Last but not least, I have one team member that's going to be talking. As she comes on and talks about some of the things that are happening, dropped in the chat box the new rate structure that went into effect today. On October 1st. If you have not seen it, please take a look. For those of you who are levels 4 through 6, I know there was a little chatter when we put those new levels, and we didn't put a lot of money to it, but I think when you look today, you'll see that we had a commitment to that, and we are there now. So we're very proud of where we are. I think the other big thing I would say about the rates is for level 2, we no longer have an urban rural, except for Benton, Washington County, where it's urban plus. We have leveled that across the state, or brought that rural up to the urban across every county, which we did with levels 3 back in 2019, and we have for levels 4 through 6. So essentially, we have levels 2 through 6, and then we have an urban plus rate for Benton, Washington County, because we continue to see the rates there look a little bit different than the rest of the state. So, Brandy, I'll let you talk about school readiness assistance, not vouchers anymore. So pay attention to this, gang. It's some new wording.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. And I'll try to move a little bit quickly, trying to respect your time and really fit into this hours. But if you have any additional questions as we move through that we don't get to answer, please feel free to reach out to us via email, and we'll get your questions answered. We wanted to let you know that we will be deploying a new school readiness assistance system. Right now, it is scheduled for December 1st. That it's a web-based system, and it will contain a citizens portal, a worker portal, and you all will be very interested in a provider portal. So we've reached out to some of your colleagues across the state, and we have compiled a list of providers that will be testing the system for us and giving us feedback on changes that may need to be made. And when I say the provider portal, this is really about your billing system for CCDF. And so as we move through, we will be giving more updates. We will be reaching out to that selected group to give us feedback and insight on what you would really need or like to see as school readiness assistance providers. Next slide. So the last update I want to give to you, and I apologize, this is a little bit small, but in your email, you all should have received an invitation to participate in the CCDF infant toddler contract program. So I wanted to highlight here a few of the requirements for that program. If you all have any specific questions, and a lot of you have already, please feel free to reach out to us via email. We're getting back to you as soon as we possibly can on here. I do want to draw your attention to the startup funds. A lot of people are having more questions about that. This is going to be available for newly opened infant toddler programs. And when we say newly opened, those are programs or classrooms that you are opening specific to this contract program. So this is not saying, hey, I opened a classroom a year ago, or I opened it 2 years ago. This startup funds is for specific to the contract program, that if you are awarded these slots, that funding may be available to you. I do want to let you know this is something that is not for every provider. So when we receive your intent to participate forms, they will be reviewed, and those people will be notified of the award if they are awarded these slots. Next slide, please. We also want to draw your attention here to your intent to participate forms. If you would like to be considered for this, are due back in our office by October 31st. And I'll say again, please feel free to reach out to us if you have additional questions about the program. Tanya.
Thanks, Brandy. I know we've been talking about that for a moment, so we're real excited about being able to expand high quality infant toddler care in the state. So look forward to hearing from all of you or some of you who may have an interest in expanding infant toddler services in your area of the state. Our next call is November 5th at noon. So we look forward to seeing you on that. I see a question. Does this apply for programs who previously received grant funds for expansion? Tiffany, no, this would be for brand new. This is similar to that, but this is really for brand new programs that are wanting to expand. So if you had space today, maybe you're not using your completely using your building and maybe have a classroom or two and you want to do that, or maybe you're reconfiguring. It is very specific to infant toddler care because that is where we continue to see gaps, not in pre-K. And I know there are folks who are really disappointed in that, but this is really the need, the gap in our state. So we're really trying to pay attention to that space with these funds. So just be aware of that. Our investment to pre-K at the state level is $114 million through the Arkansas Better Chance program. And we do pay for pre-K through the Child Care Block Grant, but this is really very intentional to try to help expand infant toddler care. And we are using some one-time funds through our preschool development grant for that startup, similar to what we did with American Rescue. So we built that into that grant, and we want to use those to help support expansion there. So very similar to what we did during ARPA, but there are some criteria. As Brandy said, please read that criteria carefully. I don't want you to waste your time. I would rather see you invest your time looking at some of the things that we brought to you today to do and getting your quality level up so that you would be eligible for some of these types of things, because the criteria here is really for certain levels of quality. And again, it's that commitment and focus of both the federal government to making sure their funds are being used to serve children in a quality way, but as the state continues to implement LEARNs and focuses on quality as well. So if you're a provider, it doesn't apply unless you're opening up new classrooms. So yes, Ms. Ray, if you have space and you can open up something new with this, as Brandy said, this would be brand new classrooms that you'd be opening related to this effort. So, but if you're an existing provider and you don't have space, focus on your quality and please look at those rates, because if you haven't looked at those, if you're not at levels 4 through 6, there's a big difference in what that rate reimbursement is. And so I would put my energy in that as well. If you're building a new building, Heather, yes, we will definitely be working with you. You can send something in. You might not be ready at the end of this, but you might be ready at a future date, and we certainly would take that into consideration. So if you can include your timeline in your initial application, that would be helpful. But yeah, it sounds like you've got some growth opportunity. Remember, it is infants and toddlers. So yes, I will clarify. Infants and toddlers for us is birth up to 36 months. So when they turn 3, they are eligible for pre-K in Arkansas. August 1, that's the date. That's the magical date we have in the state for school eligibility, for kindergarten eligibility. So if they turn 3 on August 1, they're eligible to be in pre-K. So infants and toddlers are everything prior to that. I hope that's clear enough, but it is for babies and toddlers up to 36 months old. And yes, if you're opening up a second building, absolutely. This is not limited to a brand new provider. If you're an existing provider, your level of quality could really influence the decisions that are made, because we're looking for high quality programs. So if you're planning to open up a new building, please submit that intent to apply. And I think Brandy has sent that out to all providers, Ms. Jackson, but maybe she can drop it in the link so that you can also access it. And we'll try to get it up on the website or the billing site for those of you who are billing for child care assistance. So we want to get it out as many ways. The other way is reach out to your local lead, because we made sure they had this information as well. And we're really pushing things through them, and we will be working in collaboration with them before we make any decision. So please know that they will have a great deal of input into this process as well. We do not have that, Krista, for the deadline. We're hoping to get some classrooms open, quickly, but we can be flexible about that. I don't see us waiting for 2 years. Because the funding that we have that's one time in nature is through next year. It will end December 31st of 2025. So we want to get those startup funds out there and utilized. So, and I see Jennifer's dropped that into the chat box for you all at the link. So thanks everyone. We are a little bit over today. Remember, next month it'll be a little more Office of Early Childhood updates. There's going to be some exciting things, I think, coming your way that you've heard a little bit about today, but we'll have a little bit more from our office. And then in December, we'll get back to inviting some of our colleagues to share. But we look forward to seeing you in November. And listen, everybody, thank you for what you're doing for young children, and reach out to us if you need any support from the Office of Early Childhood. Thank you.